Sa mnom je ekipa opasnih aktivista, Nataša Petrović, Ridijan Morgan i Marko Ćirović. Nataša i Marko su sa FON-a, Fakulteta organizacionih nauka, a Ridijan je...
Stylus Communications.
Tako, Stylus Communications. I oni će vam reći kako da za kratko vreme, za nedelju dana, možete da uništite ako vam dosadi planeta, kako možete da je se otarasite.
Hvala lepo. Kao što nas je koleginica predstavila, dvoje od nas dolazi sa Fakulteta organizacionih nauka, a gospodin Ridijan dolazi iz sveta i Englez je, a radi u kompaniji koja svoja delovanja onako zastupa globalno po različitim zemljama i ono što bi bilo bitno je da se bave etikom u poslovanju. Sada, prilikom davanja teme ovom našem današnjem predavanju, ja s obzirom da sam profesor, pa samim tim bi nekako se podrazumevalo, ali tako i pedagog, bilo mi je jako teško da se bavim nečim kako nešto uništiti. Tako da će ovo predavanje neće biti samo kako uništiti, nego i kako spasiti, jer ako bismo se bavili planetom Zemljom, mi smo s njenim uništavanjem odavno počeli i ne bi nam trebalo baš 7 dana, mogli bi to da uradimo i u mnogo kraćem periodu. I onda kad smo se spremali za ovo predavanje, kada ukucate na Google-u kako uništiti Zemlju, planetu Zemlju, pa ako to obavite ili na srpskom jeziku ili na engleskom jeziku, izlazi niz strana i niz sajtova sa nekim, da kažemo, praktičnim uputstvima. Jedna od njih je uvući planetu Zemlju u crnu rupu, to je onako momentalno uništenje. No, da počnemo. Mi ćemo se baviti nekim činjenicama ovde, na prvom mestu da se svi podsjetimo, nadam se da ih svi znamo, a to su činjenice vezane za našu planetu i našu lepu geu. Onoliko koliko mi znamo za sada, ono što je nama dostupno, ovo predstavlja našu rodnu planetu i jedini dom koji mi kao životinja zvana čovek možemo trenutno da imamo. Znači mi nemamo druge planete nego samo ovu jednu. Priča se o mogućnostima odlaska na neka druga mesta, o tamnoj strani meseca, gde su neki već zakupili placeve i ostalo, možda grade i vikendice, no oni spadaju nekih 5% bogatih na planeti Zemlji, a to nismo svakako mi. Sada, da je planeta Zemlja definitivno bolesna i da je obolela od njenih žitelja, ja mislim da je to svima nama jasno i da se s tim susrećemo svakoga dana. Bilo imajući u vidu čvrst otpad i smeće i đubre koje se onako preliva iz naših kontejnera ili imajući u vidu zagađenje ili možda da se podsjetimo današnjeg i jučerašnjeg dana i onog petka. U petak je bio minus, bila je magla, juče je bilo 16, a danas, ako se ne varam, nekih sjajnih 17. I mi imamo situaciju da imamo proleće u decembru koji baš i nije toliko uobičajeno za ovaj deo Srbije.
Here comes the sun, do-do-do-do-do. Here comes the sun, and I say it's alright. Little darling, it feels like ice is slowly melting. Little darling, it seems like years since it's been clear. Here comes the sun, here comes the sun, and I say it's alright, it's alright. Sun, 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 here it comes. Sun, 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 here it comes. Sun, sun, sun.
globalno zagrevanje se podrazumeva kao ekološkim problemom broj 1 na globalnom normalno nivou i nešto što nama svima preti, mada postoje, da kažemo, teorije da smo ušli u taj ciklus i da uopšte globalno zagrevanje ne postoji, nego da je to normalan ciklus u kome se kreće planeta Zemlja, ali da smo definitivno narušili naš atmosferski sloj, to stoji. I sad, kada se priča, mislim, kako uništiti planetu ili kako uništiti bilo koji život, uvek se podrazumeva neko oružje i normalno nuklearno oružje, nešto što po nekom automatizmu pada na pamet, s obzirom imajući u vidu njegove razarajuće posledice kako u prvim nekim fazama, a pogotovo imajući u vidu ono što ono donosi generacijama nazad. Pa ovo su slike Nagasakija i Hirošime. Ovo je Fukushima, ovo nedavno, relativno nedavno što se desilo u Japanu, a ovo je ipak do sada najveća ekološka katastrofa, ovo je Černobilj i ono što se desilo 86. tamo.
My name is Marko Ćirović. I'm a documentary photographer, and I just spent a year in Ukraine on a Fulbright grant, and I put together an exhibit called After Chernobyl, just exploring how people are living in the Chernobyl-affected area today, a generation after the Chernobyl accident. My commitment to this project really began when I discovered how photojournalists typically photograph Chernobyl. They visit briefly and they expect to find danger and despair, and so that's what they come away with. And of course, that's part of the Chernobyl experience, but that's only a small piece. I sought to create a more nuanced portrait of these communities. Of course, there's suffering, but there's also joy and beauty and endurance and hope. I decided to move out to a small farming village, Predavači, which is just about 10 miles from the Chernobyl exclusion zone. I wanted to do a somewhat representative sample of people living in different situations, urban and rural, and doing different kinds of work, everyone from being a physicist working at the Chernobyl plant to a subsistence farmer growing his own crops. And after I developed more trust, then I started taking a lot more pictures, and pretty soon I just became a background to people's lives, and people able to go about living their daily lives, which is what I really wanted. I didn't want posed pictures. For a long time as a photographer, I've been interested in what happens to people after some sort of environmental catastrophe. Normally the news media come in and cover it briefly, and then they leave, but people's lives go on. And it's just really interesting for me to see how people cope with the changing environment. Their lives have been completely disrupted, and I think it tells a lot about humanity and people's resilience by understanding how people can manage such difficult circumstances. It's really rare for an artist to be able to spend a full year working on a single project without other distractions. And so I'm really grateful to the Fulbright program for giving me this opportunity. Really, I think the Fulbright grant is the best kept secret for artists. People tend to think of it as an academic grant, but really it's for anyone. And what a rare opportunity it is to get to go and spend a year in a country that interests you and delve really deeply into a research topic or a documentary topic or an artistic project that interests you.
Videlo se da i život ide i posle Černobilja, ali nešto više ćemo o tome malo kasnije. Inače, kada sam googlala i pretraživala, i onda sam našla jednu debatu koja je postavljena, to je bilo da li je moguće uništiti planetu i moram da kažem da sam bila srećna što je prevagnulo više glasova koji su rekli da je nemoguće, nego oni koji su rekli da je moguće, ali svakako u duhovitijim odgovorima koje sam našla, pretpostavljam od mladih je da je moguće normalno uništiti planetu Zemlju i da će poslednje preživeti normalno Buba Švabe i ko? Chuck Norris. Tako da, eto sad, možda će čak da nas spasi i pre toga. U principu, kompletan negativan uticaj na planetu Zemlju je krenuo sa uspostavljanjem dominacije čoveka kao životinje i sa njegovim sujetnim i arogantnim uticajem na sredinu, pa se smatra da negde 17.000 godina pre nove ere i da kažemo jedan značajan, ne radi, jel radi? Radi, ne radi? Radi, dobro. Značajan uticaj na životnu sredinu, s obzirom da je u Francuskoj u tome nalazištu nađen jedan kanjon, gde je bilo više desetina hiljada skeleta ubijenih divljih konja, koji su tadašnji preistorijski lovci lovili zabave radi, ne iz potrebe. Uvek smo mislili kao, ti ljudi pre modernog vremena, oni su lovili, radili samo onoliko koliko im treba, jel tako, da obezvede svoje osnovne potrebe. Ne, ovde je dolazilo malo i do ekspanzije i eksplozije njihove sile na drugom životinskom vrstu. Zatim dolazi normalno otkriće zemljoradnje, pripitomljavanje životinja i masovno krčenje šuma, jel, da bi se gradile nasteobine, a mi znamo da ovo što sada mi radimo šumama, pogotovo u Amazoniji, tekako utiče na život na planeti Zemlji. Industrijska revolucija predstavlja svakako prekretnicu u razvoju čovečanstva po mnogo čemu, jel? A između ostalog i po svome negativnom uticaju na životnu sredinu, s obzirom da masovna proizvodnja je zahtevala intenzivno sagorevanje fosilnih goriva, pri čemu su se emitovali klima gasovi. Klima gasovi dovode normalno do efekta staklene bašte, pa onda dolazi do globalnog zagrevanja. Intenzivna upotreba svih prirodnih resursa, kao da će se misliti da će oni trajati do veka, oslobađanje raznih hemijskih zagađivača, normalno povećanje otpada u sva tri agregatna stanja i prvih ekoloških katastrofa, da li su to bile naftne mrlje, hemijske katastrofe ili tako dalje. Ovo su, da kažem, ovo je gravura, slika iz Engleske i zagađenje koje je tada vladalo, a ovo su normalno ispod nekih 16 godina koji su tada bili zaposleni i radili. I ako neko misli da je to situacija koja je vladala tada u Engleskoj, ona vlada i danas i mnoge velike kompanije koje se hvale da su društveno odgovorne, s druge strane su optuživane da koriste decu za rad i da ih vrlo malo plaćaju. Industrijska revolucija nam je nametnula kao jedini imperativ boljitka i kvaliteta života kvantitet. Znači, bitno je da ja imam 72 pari pantalona, 82 crne majice, 37 ogrlica i da one normalno traju od sezone do sezone, a ne da se ogleda u kvalitetu. Zašto? Da bi se što više kupovalo i da bi se normalno što više zarađivalo. Ovo su slike iz Kine, Iridian će malo više about China, s obzirom da ono što se sada dešava sa prosperitetom u Kini dovodi do toga da svaka naša kupovina kineskog proizvoda koja podstiče kinesku ekonomiju dovodi i do enormnog zagađenja u kineskim gradovima. Ovo je inuitski lovac ili eskim sa kljovama ubijenog morža. I sada postoje različite u ekologiji, da kažemo, etičke dileme koje su stalne. Koga mi treba da spasimo? Da li morževe ili eskime? Da li kitove? Da li eskime? Koju životinsku vrstu trebamo da favorizujemo? Normalno, jasno nam je da sve što radimo, s obzirom da mislimo ili jesmo na vrhu lanca ishrane, radimo da bi čovek preživeo na planeti. Ovo su male slatke foke i one do svoje 2 nedelje života imaju belo krzno. Da bi bunde bile bele boje, potrebno je uzeti ovo krzno do 2 nedelje ovih životinja. Tada u severnim delovima Kanade i Aljasci se obavlja jedan junački, herojski čin, a to je da muškarci, a predstavlja i deo inicijacije kod pojedinih naroda, ubijaju ove životinje koristeći motke i ostale priručne, da kažemo, uređaje i alatke. Namerno nije stavljen ni jedan film vezan za ovu tematiku, jer je stvarno suviše mučan. Tako da, recimo, ovo su podaci između 2003. i 2005. koje je objavilo kanadsko ministarstvo, da je ubijeno 975.000 mladunaca i odraslih grenlandskih i 30.000 odraslih običnih foka. To su obično ženke, majke koje su branile svoje potomstvo. To radi ona životinja na vrhu lanca ishrane zvana čovek. Ovo me ovako zapanjilo zato što sam ja uvek nešto pre mislila da su ti nordijski narodi jako ekološki svesni i jesu, ali desilo se to, mislim, pre 2 godine, da, tada je bilo, sam pročitala u Politici baš negde oko Božića, da su u Švedskoj je došlo do toga da je posle 45 godina parlament odobrio lov na vukove. Radilo se o 27 jedinki koji su određeni za odstrel, lov je trajao vikend, a na njih je krenula armija od 12.000 hrabrih lovaca. S obzirom na standard koji oni tamo imaju, su bili u punoj ratnoj opremi i za prvi dan su uspeli da ubiju 26. Jedna jedinka im je nestala, ali uspeli su da dokrajče i nju. Obrazloženje je bilo da je to zato što je u ovoj nordijskoj zemlji vuk strašna i opasna životinja i plaše ih se zbog raznih legendi i bajki. Ovo je zvuk umirućeg kita. Ja sam majka i za mene nema ničeg strašnijeg i bolnijeg od plača bebe. I kad neko tužno kaže mama, ali odmah posle toga spadaju ovi zvuci. Nažalost, kitolov, iako je zabranjen konvencijama Ujedinjenih nacija, se nastavlja i u komercijalnom lovu na kitove prednjači opet jedna nordijska zemlja, to je Norveška, a druga je Japan, zato što kitovo meso spada u specijalitete, a njegove, da kažemo, bifteci ili već kako bi se to nazvalo, njegovo posluženje, košta više stotina dolara. Ceo ove, rekli smo, industrijska revolucija, prosperitet, profit, kupovina, rad, zaradi, samo zarađuj pare, između ostalog nisu sada doneli svima boljitak i svih naših, sad već koliko nas ima, 7 milijardi, na sigurno 7 milijardi i 20, 30, šta se desilo umeđu vremenu od oktobra meseca, doneli su s jedne strane nekima ogromne količine ekstra profita, a drugima ekstremno siromaštvo. Misli se da kada bi se uzelo samo prvih 5 najvećih bogataša u svetu, njihov ekstra profit, da bi se rešio globalni problem siromaštva na planeti Zemlji. Postoje zastrašujuće brojke, a ja sad ovde ne bih zbog mladih, koliko mladih dnevno nestaje odavde. Samo zbog toga što žive u ekstremnim uslovima siromaštva. Inače, ovakvi uslovi, između ostalog što donose i vraćaju bolesti koje bi trebalo da budu iskorenjene, a ne da ko pre par godina bude afera u Beogradu učiteljici i deci, o čemu se pisalo u Kuriru, o tuberkulozi, a tuberkuloza je bolest siromašnih, već da budu zauvek da ne postoje, između ostalog ovakvi uslovi stanovanja zagađuju, je li tako, i prirodu i sva 3 medijuma životne sredine, i vodu i vazduh i zemljište. Ovo je inače Bhopal, Indija, to je malo dalje odavde, a malo bliže odavde ovo je Beograd i jedna, da kažemo, opština na obodu. Primećujemo veoma slične uslove života i da smo globalno u principu na istome. Tako da još negde 70. godina prošlog veka se smatralo da smo mi neki raj koji nam je dat za uvek izgubili i gubimo ga rapidnom brzinom. Ne traje to 7 dana, traje malo duže, ali ako nastavimo ovako, stvarno će se završiti za 7 dana. I neko realno lice globalizacije, stalno se priča globalizacija, globalizacija, šta je to globalizacija? Nešto što je ružno vezano za to, to je velika katastrofa koja se desila, opet Bhopal, Indija, 1984. godine. U pitanju je bila američka fabrika koja je bila smeštena u Indiji, tamo je bilo Bože li zašto zgodno, tako da je od nesreće umrlo ukupno 20.000 ljudi. I nikada nije pravi uzročnik niti javljen ko je to, opet je bio ljudski faktor, normalno, niti je bio kažnjen. Inače, ono po čemu, da kažemo, cela planeta i tekako obiluje je otpada, pogotovo ova naša lepa Republika Srbija. Inače, oni koji se bave reciklažom, i to je ta čarobna reč reciklirati, reciklaža, bi rekli da u ovome leži bogatstvo. Mi još uvek nismo shvatili da u ovome leži bogatstvo i da ne samo da ćemo očistiti našu prirodu, već da ćemo uspeti nešto i da zaradimo, pa onda govoriti o održivom razvoju, o razvoju ekologije, ekonomije i društva. To ovako, otprilike izgleda kad smo sakupili, ali ovo definitivno ne ide da se reciklira i ono po čemu su, da kažemo, mnoge zemlje izuzetno bogate i mi, a to je elektronski i električni otpad koji se nagomilava i mi znamo da ova industrija se menja otprilike ceo svoj životni ciklus na 6 meseci, stražno tražeći da poboljšavamo naše mašine, a inače ovaj otpad spada u opasni otpad. Tako da definitivno progres koji smo sami sebi nametnuli, šta smo rekli, 17.000 pre nove ere, je doveo do toga da on ide jednim putem, a ekologija nekim drugim. Pa bi ovako ta naša evolucija izgledala ovako, a možda i ovako. Zaključio i mislio Kubricka, ja da sada pozovem Ridijana i da kažem šta bi Ridijan zaključio i rekao na ovu temu. Please, Ridijan. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Natasha, and thank you to all of you for being here. I apologize in advance that I can't address you in Serbian. I hope, therefore, that you'll tolerate my English, and I hope you'll understand. There is an old story that we sometimes tell to children in schools in the UK about a scorpion and a fox trying to cross a river. And the scorpion says to the fox, "Mr. Fox, let me climb upon your snout so that I may stay dry and you can ferry me across the river." And the fox says, "No, I cannot do that because you are a scorpion and you will sting me and I will die." The scorpion says, "But Mr. Fox, why would I do that? For if you die whilst we are in the river, then I too will surely drown, and I would never be so stupid." The fox thinks about this for a while and agrees that the scorpion has logic in his argument. So he allows the scorpion to climb on his head and starts to ferry the animal across the river. As they get halfway, the scorpion looks down and stings the fox, injecting poison into him, paralyzing him, and causing him to die. As he starts to drown, the fox looks up, and with his last breath he says, "But why did you do that? Now you too will die." And the scorpion says, "What else would I do? I'm a scorpion." We tell that story to children to illustrate that some animals can never escape their nature. I think it illustrates better exactly what we as human beings are currently doing to our planet. We know that our actions pollute, damage, poison the world that we need to live on, and yet we seem unable to stop ourselves from doing so. But unlike the scorpion, human beings are the one animal who can change their nature, who have the ability to act differently if and when we choose. When I was much younger, I entered a writing competition when I was in high school or middle school, about the age of 13, some too many years ago now to think. And the theme of the story was the future. And like every 13-year-old, I used to watch Star Trek and Superman and all these tales about science fiction. And then I thought, well, no, that isn't the future I can see. I don't see a future of robots. I don't see a future of spaceships. I don't see a future of food in little pills like astronauts eat. What I saw was a future of people scrabbling in the dirt because food didn't grow, of people wandering around in oxygen masks because the air wasn't clean, of people fighting wars because there was no water left. The last century was a century of conflict, usually over oil. The next century will be one of conflict over water if we don't do something now. The title of this is that we have 7 days in which to destroy our world. The consequence of that is that we probably only have 7 days in which to save our world, because it only takes 7 days for us to ignore the problems before they get too big and too much for us to deal with. Now, I've been talking for about 3 minutes. In that time alone, 7,500 tons of carbon dioxide were produced just by the cars in the United States of America. There are about 250 million cars currently driving on the roads of America. Together, they produce 1.3 billion tons of carbon dioxide every year. We calculate that over the planet, there are approximately 800 million cars, and that number is ever growing, because as countries develop economically, as people gain that economic independence, their natural desire is to buy things that make their lives more convenient, the motor car being one of them. 800 million cars globally equates to 4,160,000,000 tons of carbon dioxide pumped into the atmosphere every single year. And that's a fraction of what goes into our air every year, because cars aren't the biggest problem. Our over-reliance on fossil fuels adds another 30 billion tons of carbon dioxide to our atmosphere every year. Now, in order to have space for those cars to drive, we cut down forests so we can build more roads. We clear an area the size of Europe in South America every single day. Much of it so that we can graze cattle, so that companies like McDonald's and Burger King can feed you the convenience food that we've all come to enjoy. We don't recognize the impact of our own behaviors on the planet because we don't want to consider that what we are doing has any real damaging effect. We always hear the voices say, but I'm only one person. I don't drive that much. I only drive when it's necessary. I don't waste things. But the impact of everything we do is contributing to the depletion of our resources, to the pollution of our atmosphere, and to the lack of a planet for us to hand on to our children. So what is the problem? Well, in 1896, the Swedish climatologist Aarhus first developed the idea, the theory of global warming. He suggested that if we double the amount of carbon dioxide currently in the atmosphere, from 1896, that would increase global temperatures by 5 degrees Celsius. Now, for somebody living in Sweden in 1896, an increase in temperature of 5 degrees Celsius was probably a very attractive thing. But what that increase in temperature globally means is that global food production will fall by over 50% because we simply won't have a climate in which we're able to produce food. This will happen at the same time as the global population gets bigger and bigger and bigger. We're used now, my generation, to seeing starvation in Africa. When the first Ethiopian famine hit in 1984, my parents were shocked. It was something that should never happen, they said. Now it's something I've learned to live with. That famine has never gone away. It shifted from country to country, but it's always with us. And there's nothing we seem able to do about it. We're told sometimes it's just a problem of distribution, that we have enough food, we just don't know how to get it to the places we need. As the population hits 7 billion on the planet this year and is scheduled to rise further, possibly to 9 billion by 2050, our lack of food resources is going to become ever more stark. We've already seen the first conflicts fought over resources such as water. One of the problems with the partition of Sudan in Eastern Africa was not who got the oil, it was who got access to the fresh water. That fueled a genocide in Darfur, ended up with the partition of a country, and we still don't know how that is going to pan out. But that's not the only problem we have, because Aarhus's predictions of the amount of CO2 in the atmosphere and of the temperature rising are exactly spot on with what we're seeing today when we measure global climate change. We reckon that by 2050, just 40 years away, when some of the children in this room are getting towards my age, that we will already have hit that point. We would have hit it already had it not been for the initiatives that we started 40 years ago. And this is what I mean when I say we have just 7 days. We take our eye off the ball for just one day, and the damage we do can never be recovered. What can we do then on an individual level? What can countries do on an individual level? That's part of the problem. We think it's a good thing in the modern world that we have political parties who are focused on green initiatives, on environmentally friendly programs, on policies that are designed to make us more ecologically aware, more ecologically sound, more ecologically responsible. Ladies and gentlemen, the fact that we have political parties devoted to green issues is part of the problem and not part of the solution. Because it shouldn't be a separate issue for some political parties. We shouldn't have a right-wing party, a centre party, a left-wing party, and a green party. All the political parties need to be green parties from now on. No country is willing to be the first, not even America, where 5% of the world's population produce 30% of the world's pollution. Or China, as Nataša said I would mention. I visited 4 times this year, and I've seen a steady decrease in the air quality, such that some days in Beijing, you cannot see 200 meters in front of you, not because of fog or cloud, but purely because of pollution. We are getting to the stage where nobody is willing to act because nobody wants to lose their advantage. And there will be costs. There are always costs, but they're costs that we have to bear if we're to have anything to hand on in the future. The opportunity costs that each country faces of being the first to instill new policies that deliberately hinder economic growth, that deliberately stall economic or technological development, are precisely those policies that are necessary right now if it's not already too late. But no country will do it on their own, because why would they? Why would America hinder its own economic growth and allow China to grow ever quicker? Why would countries in Africa who've never been allowed to grow and develop economically consider their impact on the environment when they can point to countries in the developed world, countries in Europe, countries in North America, and say, well, they don't care, why should we? The problem is no longer an individual one. It's no longer a national one, because pollution is no respecter of national borders. When we pollute in North America, it doesn't stop at Mexico and go, oh, sorry, we're American pollution. It doesn't care about that. And it's right not to care, because it seems like we don't care either. We're more concerned with whether we have a latest iPhone, not with the environmental impact that the materials go into that iPhone can cause. We're more concerned with the fact that we have convenient ready meals and microwaves in which to cook them, not with the fact that having those meals might mean that somebody else has no food at all. We're more concerned with having the right designer label on our bottle of water than we are with the fact that some people have no water at all. It's a slightly sick joke, ladies and gentlemen, when you consider the best-selling water in the world, Evian. When you spell it backwards, it says naive. That's exactly what we are with our resources and our use of the planet. So what do we do then? If green parties are the problem and not the solution, how do we change behavior? That's the key question. Because I don't think that a lecture called 7 Days to Destroy the World should be one of disaster. This should be a message of hope, that we still have time to act, but we need to act together, we need to act now, and we need to act globally. We as individuals need to change our behaviors so that we demand more of companies. Companies will always respond to the market, so we need to make sure that the market is sending the right message, that we will no longer buy from companies who pollute. We will no longer tolerate deforestation simply so we can enjoy fast food. We need to send that message clearly. We also need to send the message to our governments that this is no longer a political issue for one side of the political spectrum, that this is something that affects all of us. It might hurt in the short term. Medicine often is distasteful. But it's now that we need to take that medicine if ever we're to find a cure. I'd like to leave you with one thought, ladies and gentlemen. When wars start, most of us are not affected by them, and most of us don't care about them until they do affect us directly. The battle against pollution, the battle against global warming, and the battle against the destruction of our planet is a war. It is a war that affects all of you right now, even though you might not feel it. You are no more insulated from this battle than the African farmers of the Maasai tribe in Kenya. You are no more insulated from this battle than the Colombian coffee makers. You are no more insulated from this battle than the Eskimos and the Inuits who are seeing their homeland destroyed. We've started to see it reach our shores. In Stavanger, in Norway, earlier this year, a group of British schoolboys was attacked by a polar bear, and 2 of them were killed. Everybody said what a horrific thing this was, that something needed to be done. These boys needed to be better protected when they went on this trip. Nobody said, maybe we shouldn't have destroyed the climate so that polar bears come further south to where humans are living in search of their food. If we don't start to think that we are the problem, we will also never realize how we can be the solution. Thank you very much for your attention.
Hvala. Sada ćemo da nastupimo opet filmskim putem sa nekih 5-6 minuta pre zaključnog dela.
Hello, I'm Severin Suzuki, speaking for Kako, the environmental children's organization. We're a group of 12 and 13-year-olds trying to make a difference. Vanessa Sunny, Morgan Geisler, Michelle Quigg, and me. We've raised all the money to come here ourselves, to come 5,000 miles to tell you adults you must change your ways. Coming up here today, I have no hidden agenda. I am fighting for my future. Losing my future is not like losing an election or a few points on the stock market. I am here to speak for all generations to come. I am here to speak on behalf of the starving children around the world whose cries go unheard. I am here to speak for the countless animals dying across this planet because they have nowhere left to go. I am afraid to go out in the sun now because of the holes in our ozone. I am afraid to breathe the air because I don't know what chemicals are in it. I used to go fishing in Vancouver, my home, with my dad, until just a few years ago we found the fish full of cancers. And now we hear of animals and plants going extinct, every day vanishing forever. In my life, I have dreamt of seeing the great herds of wild animals, jungles and rainforests, full of birds and butterflies. But now I wonder if they will even exist for my children to see. Did you have to worry of these things when you were my age? All this is happening before our eyes, and yet we act as if we have all the time we want and all the solutions. I'm only a child and I don't have all the solutions. But I want you to realize, neither do you. You don't know how to fix the holes in our ozone layer. You don't know how to bring the salmon back up a dead stream. You don't know how to bring back an animal now extinct. And you can't bring back the forest that once grew where there is now a desert. If you don't know how to fix it, please stop breaking it. Here, you may be delegates of your governments, business people, organizers, reporters, or politicians, but really, your mothers and fathers, sisters and brothers, aunts and uncles, and all of you are someone's child. I'm only a child, yet I know we are all part of a family, 5 billion strong, in fact, 30 million species strong. And borders and governments will never change that. I'm only a child, yet I know we are all in this together and should act as one single world towards one single goal. In my anger, I am not blind, and in my fear, I am not afraid of telling the world how I feel. In my country, we make so much waste. We buy and throw away, and yet northern countries will not share what we need. Even when we have more than enough, we are afraid to share. We are afraid to let go of some of our wealth. In Canada, we live the privileged life, with plenty of food, water, and shelter. We have watches, bicycles, computers, and television sets. The list could go on for 2 days. 2 days ago here in Brazil, we were shocked when we spent time with some children living on the streets. This is what one child told us. I wish I was rich. And if I were, I would give all the street children food, clothes, medicines, shelter, and love and affection. If a child on the streets who has nothing is willing to share, why are we who have everything still so greedy? I can't stop thinking that these are children my own age, that it makes a tremendous difference where you were born. That I could be one of those children living in the favelas in Rio. I could be a child starving in Somalia, or a victim of war in the Middle East, or a beggar in India. I am only a child, yet I know if all the money spent on war was spent on finding environmental answers, ending poverty, or finding treaties, what a wonderful place this earth would be. At school, even in kindergarten, you teach us how to behave in the world. You teach us not to fight with others, to work things out, to respect others, to clean up our mess, not to hurt other creatures, to share, not be greedy. Then why do you go out and do the things you tell us not to do? Do not forget why you are attending these conferences, who you're doing this for. We are your own children. You are deciding what kind of world you're growing up in. Parents should be able to comfort their children by saying, everything's going to be all right. It's not the end of the world, and we're doing the best we can. But I don't think you can say that to us anymore. Are we even on your list of priorities? My dad always says, you are what you do, not what you say. Well, what you do makes me cry at night. You grown-ups say you love us, but I challenge you, please, make your actions reflect your words. Thank you.
Junu 1992. godine ova divna devojčica je govorila ovakve stvari, a u decembru te iste godine sam ja 13. decembra postala majka. I ja spadam u roditelje, ne samo što pričam to ovde, ne samo što predajem to na Fakultetu organizacionih nauka, koji duboko veruju da u roditeljstvu, a da svaki odrasto i ne mora da bude mama ili tata, da ima u sebi to izraženo, treba da vodi računa o deci i o generacijama koje dolaze, što je između ostalog i suština održivog razvoja. I ova veoma teška i bolna tema kako uništiti planetu Zemlju za 7 dana ili kako spasiti planetu za 7 dana, ja mislim da može da nam ostavi svima malobrojnim, ali nema veze, dovoljno da je jedan ovde u publici pa da nešto ponese ideje da li možemo, da li hoćemo ili da li volimo da uradimo nešto za buduća vremena i neku buduću planetu. I pored svih zala koje smo naneli jedni drugima i naneli našoj planeti, ja se nadam da, voljela bih normalno da čujem vaše mišljenje, da svi koji su ovde, pusti slajd, su ipak optimisti i da je nebo naša jedina granica i da ćemo uspeti da se onako preokrenemo i da se bavimo nekim lepšim i boljim stvarima. Pa da pitam ja vas, ima li nade za nas nomade?
Ima. Hoće neko nešto da kaže? Neće, evo ja ću skočiti ovde i da priđemo ovom najmlađem. Šta ti kažeš? Ima nada da ćemo da uništimo planetu za 7 dana ili da spasimo?
Pa nećemo baš bukvalno uništiti, ali krenut ćemo u dobro.
Krenut ćemo u dobro razaranje. Ima li nade?
Da se spasi, pa... možda.
Pa dovoljno je to možda, znači možda se desi ili ne. Šta ti kažeš?
Ja mislim da možemo da uništimo da se.
Da, dobro. A možemo da spasimo?
Pa ja mislim da može.
Dobro. Jer ti veruješ u ovo?
Verujem.
Dobro, ja je verujem. Ja sam Nataša. Nađe, drago. Da li gospodin opet?
Ja mislim mnogo sada, 3 dana.
Da, možda čak i 5 minuta. A da spasimo?
Pa mnogo vremena.
Ali da se trudimo?
Pa ja mislim da tu ne podržava ovo što se priča ovo je velike njuške.
Da. Čude sa tim njuškama, to su neke gadne sve. Da li hoće još neko nešto da kaže, da ja potrčim s mikrofonom? Ne? Hvala lepo, bilo nam je zadovoljstvo. Ja sam Nataša Petrović, dolazim sa Fakulteta organizacionih nauka, gde predajem ekološki menadžment, dizajn za životnu sredinu, ekomarketing i niz predmeta vezanih za zaštitu životne sredine. Ipak ono na što sam najponosnija, to je zato što imam čast da budem predsjednica studentske ekološke organizacije, čiji je cilj promocija zaštite životne sredine i uticanje na poboljšanje nivoa ekološke svesti kod javnosti je na prvom mestu kod najmlađih koji predstavljaju našu budućnost.
A recite mi, da li podizanje svesti u Srbiji može da utiče na globalne odnose u prirodi?
Apsolutno. Znači, to i sve nauke, i sve teorije, i sve prakse govore o tome da samo edukacijom se može usađivanjem određenih znanja poboljšati i nivo svesti. Kada je u pitanju ekologija, ekološka edukacija je za nijansu specifična od neke druge s obzirom da zahteva aktivnost. Jer ništa ne vredi da mi znamo napamet neki podatak kada ili neku definiciju ako nećemo da promenimo svoj način ponašanja. Ono kada je u pitanju zaštite životne sredine i ekološka edukacija, ili nazovimo to obrazovanjem za održivi razvoj, to je promena nekih naših ličnih paterna ponašanja i jedan bolji odnos prema životnoj sredini.
A recite mi u drugim zemljama, da li one prednjače u odnosu na nas u podizanju svesti?
Apsolutno, apsolutno. Znači, to su neke zemlje koje su, da kažemo, u svom, nažalost, diskurs održivog razvoja se vezuje i za bogate i siromašne zemlje. Bogate zemlje koje, da kažemo, ne vode računa o tome i ne moraju da vode računa o tome šta će danas jesti, piti, kako će se lečiti, imaju, da kažemo, taj luksuz da vode računa i o prirodi, s obzirom da su mnogi od njih odavno svoje prljave tehnologije izvezli u neke siromašne zemlje. Za razliku od njih, siromašne zemlje, prepune otpada, prljavih tehnologija, u trci ne za boljim sutra, nego u trci šta će danas i sutra da jedu, nemaju vremena da vode o zaštiti životne sredine i to je sasvim normalno i razumljivo. Zato je i problem ekologije i problem cele zaštite životne sredine, problem cele planete i globalnog, da kažemo, raspodele snaga, bogatstava, želje, nade da se spasi planeta.
My name is Ridian Morgan. I'm from the UK and I founded an organization called Stylus Communication that works with businesses and with individuals around the world to help businesses act in a more ethical fashion and to communicate those ethical choices to consumers. And we work a lot with students in the fields of debate, public speaking and critical thinking so that they're better able to process and analyze arguments and information so they can make the right ethical choices for their future as well.
Is this your first time here?
No, I've been coming to Belgrade for many years, over a period of 21 years. I was first here in 1990, I was here in 1994, I was here in 1999, so I've seen some turbulent times in Serbia's history, but I've been a more frequent visitor over the last 5 or 6 years as the opportunities for Serbian students in debate have started to grow.
Are you collaborating with us? Are you collaborating with us?
Yes, I work closely with the students of FON, the Faculty of Organizational Science, with FBN, Faculty of Political Science, and with the Law Faculty as well. I work with the students in Open Communication, a society that aims to promote debate, not just within Serbia, but within the Balkan region as a whole.
Okay, and how do you like our festival?
I think this is fantastic. I think one of the most important things we can do for the young generation is develop an interest and a love of science, because that's where most of our information comes from. And unfortunately, what we see in media is poor representation of scientific argument or information, misrepresentation, particularly media in my country, where everything is apparently a cure or a cause of cancer. We need to fight against that level of ignorance, and it's through organizations and festivals such as this, the establishment of the CPN, the Center for the Provision of Science. I think these are wonderful initiatives that we should do everything to support.
And Serbian audience and your students here that you're working with?
I've been very fortunate that my students are usually very, very willing to engage. I'm trying to learn as much Serbian as I can. I don't always tell everybody how much I speak, because then I like to be able to hear what's going on around me. But no, the level of English here I think is fantastic, and that's important too. It is the global language of communication, but that doesn't mean that all communication should always be in English. It's important as well to develop and encourage the discourse in the native language as well.